that are just, coming down the pike like, it's almost like being fired at with a machine gun.
Right. Yes, I oftentimes think of it as a barrage, a sensory barrage. Really, yes.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like part of what I wanted to do in writing this book, What a Body Knows, is to try to open up the question, well, if we do want to navigate ourselves in this world, what are the resources that we have? Mm-hmm. And how do we find them? How do we actually cultivate our sense of our bodies as instruments of discernment, right? Like, I feel like our bodily selves that we have are kind of like amplifiers. They're picking up on whatever messages, vibrations, waves are sort of around us, and then are registering responses to those things. And so if we can really sort of cultivate what I call our sensory awareness, we can have resources at our disposal for asking ourselves, what impact is that television watching having on me? Right? What is that food actually doing in my body after I eat it? When I make the movements that this particular, diet plan or, religious program is asking me to make, what am I creating? What is it developing in me? What is it cultivating in me? I feel like in everything we do in every moment of our lives creates us. It becomes a movement that we've made. It leaves traces in our sensory, emotional, mental, neurological selves, and those traces, those patterns, then become potential for sensing something like that again, for repeating that kind of pattern again. So whatever patterns we're making in any moment are opening and closing possibilities for the next moment. And I think it's vitally important that we say to ourselves, I'm making these movements in my life. I'm moving in ways in relationship to food and relationships and the communities and the worlds in which I am that are creating things, that are making me who I am. And do I like what it is that I'm creating? Or am I creating myself in a way that's enabling me to unfold what it is I have to give?
Right. Boy, that is the big question, isn't it?
I think so.
So in your book, you explore all of this and help. Well, I should say you're empowering the person who's going through this process to ask these questions and to open up to new possibilities. It sounds like.
Yes. I have a phrase in the book where I say that all we have to offer the world is the work that the satisfaction of our desires requires. Actually, I say it better like that in the book. But the idea is that we have desires, and desires are complicated, and desires are conflicted, and desires are sometimes clear, and we don't always know exactly what it is that we want. So part of the work we need to do as individuals is to learn how to sort of drop down and open up and sit with that in that place of unknowing long enough for us to be able to feel what the impulses are that are guiding us to move in particular ways. And so being able to listen to your desires does require this work. I think it requires humility. I think it requires patience. I think it requires compassion. It requires attentiveness. And so the very work of learning to listen to our desires actually cultivates these moral qualities that we need in our lives in order to be able to be free from our fears and our angers and our materialism to unfold what it is we have to give.
Oh, absolutely. It seems like an important part of that would also include non-judgmentalism.
Yes.
Not judging yourself for your desires. In other words, if we're going to allow them to come up, which is a healthy way to express them, we can't be judging our desires even if it's something that is not necessarily morally acceptable to someone else in society.
Yes. I think that's,
because when you repress your desires, you end up with people like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right.
And that, that have stuffed, and at some point, the wound comes out, and it's not pretty when it does come out.
Right. A violated desire is a violent desire. I mean, I definitely believe that, and I think oftentimes a desire can come up that we find is disturbing, and that disturbing nature of it is part of what its meaning is to us. And so I think, when we have a desire that strikes us as disturbing, that's a real call for us to sit and listen and to allow it. I have some sort of ways I talk about in the book of how you can actually create space to allow your desires to unfold. And I think, and it's my sense that when we have desires that strike us as disturbing, that when we actually allow them to unfold, that we'll find the impulse to connect that's at the center of it. I think that most of the kind of reasons that we feel that if you have a desire to sort of hurt somebody, or that you want to take revenge, or that you're angry, or you feel like you want to have sex with somebody who's outside of your relationship, or you want to stuff yourself with food, or there's different kind of, there's a whole range of what I would call sort of yuck feelings, or sort of desires which are sort of disturbing because they have a kind of a violent aspect to them. There's an aspect that sort of, if we would follow them, the pleasure that we would get would hurt in a way. And I feel like so often those desires that come out of that, that express that kind of hurt, are coming from a hurt place in us. And if we can be honest with that hurt place in us, and that oftentimes takes humility, and it takes patience, and all those things I was saying.
Absolutely. And
it's sort of a real honesty with ourselves. Then we can actually begin the healing process. Which allows, we can realize what we really want. Oh, what I really want is not to actually sleep with this person who's not my partner. What I really want is to talk to my partner and to say, what you said to me that, 4 days ago really hurts.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, I really feel that so many of the kind of the hurtful desires we have are coming from places of hurt inside of us, which we need to be courageous enough and honest enough with ourselves to allow to start the healing process.
Oh, absolutely. And then, of course, that requires the ability to communicate. If it's with a partner, for instance, then you have to be able to tell the truth. You can't have withholds or things that you're not sharing with your partner, because those things grow like a cancer over time, and they turn into something else, which could be violent, or not conducive to the relationship. So.
Right. And I actually talk at length about that, and I have sort of a little phrase which I say that, when I'm trying to deal with this question of asking for what you need, because it can be really hard to ask for what you need in a relationship for a whole bunch of reasons. You cannot want to hurt your partner. You might be embarrassed or ashamed of what you are feeling, or you don't want to rock the boat, or you start to really feel like you want the relationship, you want to keep the relationship, you're invested in the relationship, so you don't want to do anything that would mess it up. I mean, there's so many reasons that you think you're doing something for the relationship that will cause you to hold back. But as soon as you hold back and you close off, then those sensory spaces inside of yourself close down, and you can no longer feel your love and your passion flowing through those places inside of yourself. So part of what I say is, if you ask for what you need, you have more to give. Because if you're asked for what you need, if you're honest and you're open with the kinds of things that the relationship is creating in you, then you are free to feel through those spaces. So, the kind of, and I also talk about asking in terms of asking for what you need in order to give and receive a life-enabling touch. I feel that's sort of, when I, to take a step back, when I sort of go into relationships and talk about relationships, and I talk about the desire for sex and how it has been shaped by this material culture that we've been talking about, that we sort of feel like sex is this physical act, and we just have it or we don't, and if we have it, we're satisfied, and we don't, we're not, and it's separate somehow from love. So love is this emotion, and sex is this physical act, and of course the best thing is if they can get together, but they can't always get together, so we sometimes we have sex just because we want to, because we think we're in love, and sometimes we don't because we think we're in love, but they're separated. So part of what I want to sort of ask the question is, well, what if our desire for sex is actually guiding us to learn how to love? What if the kind of work we need to do in learning how to give and receive a life-enabling touch is the work we need to do in order to open one another to one another, to feel the love that's connecting us?
What an interesting way to see it.
Yeah.
I like that. Instead of placing blame or categorizing it, you're turning it into something constructive.
Right.
That can take you where places where you might want to go, and reunify or heal the division that we imagine that is created there.
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I mean,
you also write for Psychology Today, don't you?
Yes.
I was reading one of your articles, so it's not surprising that you would have some new ways of viewing things that maybe we've forgotten how to look at, and maybe we've never really known how to look at them properly. Right.
In the Psychology Today, if you go into the blog section and you look under health, that's where you'll find my blog, and it's actually the title of my book. It's called What a Body Knows. And in that blog, there's actually one that I've written recently called Giving the Gift of Yourself. And it deals with this very issue that we're talking about now in relationships.
And while we're talking about that, mention what your website is so people can find your website and then link to your blog as well.
Sure. The quickest way to get to the website is to follow the title of the book. So it's www.whatabodyknows.com. And that will take you to the section of our website that has my writing, and there will be also a link to the Psychology Today website in that section of our website.
Good, thanks.
So our whole project here on the farm is what we call Vital Arts. And so Vital Arts Media is kind of the umbrella under which you'll find, so that on that site you'll find my writing, so this book, and you'll find discussions. You'll find information about my dancing, and you'll also find information about my husband Jeffrey's music. So it's all there.
Good.
But the quickest way is to get through What a Body Knows. Just whatabodyknows.com will take you right there.
So have you, in all of your life, have you ever been happier than you are now?
No.
Because it sounds like you're really living your dream.
Yes. We are.
I mean, it's such a beautiful way of self-expression, and then sharing that with other people, and those people who will gravitate naturally to what you have to share will be the ones that probably will get the most out of it.
Mhm. Yes, and just because when we're living our dream doesn't make it easy. there are all kinds of challenges that come up. But what's different is that we know that the challenges that are coming up are requiring us to grow in ways we want to grow.
Yes.
And that is, if you have challenges in your life which aren't enabling or requiring you to grow in ways that you want to grow, then they're not enlivening.
Right.
Then you can feel beaten down and really stressed out. But it is true that we feel that the challenges that we're facing in our lives are really the kind of challenges we need and want in order to become who we are.
Oh, absolutely. Personally, for me, I try to set aside as much of the day as possible to do nothing.
Yes.
So that I can just have that space, that wonderful space to just be.
Right.
And that might mean walking around the garden, or but it's a space where I can think and breathe and look at the trees and feel the wind and look at the birds eating the bird seed and
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't get much better than that.
Right. You really bring your senses to life.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also notice that when I go down to the store, 2 miles